Well, good afternoon, everyone. You can see this huge pot of soup that smells amazing sitting here ready to go for today's video. Funny story, this is the vegetable beef soup that's in the recipe section of this workshop and on my website. And I was cooking it this afternoon. My husband walks in the door and he's like, "Oh my gosh, dinner smells amazing. What are we having?" And I had to look at him and say, "Oh, no, honey, this isn't dinner. This is for my freezer workshop. I'm just cooking everything so I can video, have it in the freezer, but we'll have it soon, don't worry." I'm not kidding. He had like the saddest look on his face. So I promise you, this smell will have your family in your kitchen trying to figure out exactly what you've got cooking. So all I've done is followed the recipe exactly as it calls for. Not difficult at all, not time consuming. You do need to let your soup cool quite a bit before you transfer it to get freezer ready. But once it's cooled down to enough to handle, then you just bag it up, and this soup stays good for about 3 months in your freezer. So you definitely want to have your bag labeled with the name of the soup. So this is veggie beef soup, and directions. So for soups, they're already cooked, right? They're not like a slow cooker meal where you have to cook them for, hours on end. These are done. These are cooked. You could actually have this for dinner, but I will be very honest with you. When it comes to beef soups that call for that beef stew meat, sometimes that stuff can get really hard or tough when you go to eat it right away. I have made this recipe and other recipes that call for that stew meat, and once I've cooked it and I have frozen it and I cook it and I reheat it later, it's the most tender cut of meat you can imagine. So it continues to tenderize in the soup in the freezer, so that when you do thaw it out, you'll just thaw it out in your fridge overnight and you reheat it. I always like to reheat it on the stovetop, but you can totally nuke it in the microwave, whatever you have time for. And you have a meal that's super tender. The beef, it's not as tender now as it will be when I go to eat it in a week, 2 weeks, a month, 3 months. So just a side note there. So I have this ready to go. I cooked it according to directions, straightforward. And now I am going to bag it. So I have the bag ready. I've got it in my bag opener. And I like to transfer my soup into the bag with a ladle. And the reason I do that is because I can measure out portions for my family that way, and I know how much to freeze in a portion. So this recipe calls for all of this. Like, I didn't double the recipe. I cooked it just as is, right? Well, you can tell that this big old pot is gonna feed my family way more than one meal. So what I do is I freeze 2 dinner portions, so enough to feed my family twice. I'm just gonna get some broth now and add some broth in there. To feed my family twice. That'll go in the big bags. And then I grab smaller bags and I freeze individual portions. Because if you wanna talk about needing a delicious, healthy, home-cooked lunch on the run, grabbing a previously cooked and frozen soup is the perfect solution. Now, let me also say, when you see bay leaves in your recipes, I throw them out before I freeze them, but if you want to leave them in, you can. So I think that looks good. We add a little more broth. Okay, so that's all I did. This bag is ready to go. This is 1 serving for my family of 4. That's like less than half the pot. I mean, it's crazy how much these soup recipes make. And if you don't have a system for freezing, you're just throwing stuff away, and you just don't need to do that. So cooking this 1 recipe is honestly going to feed my family twice, plus probably give me 3 or 4 lunches out of it for whoever needs it in the future. And my goodness, who doesn't love home-cooked beef vegetable stew? What I'm doing right now is getting the air out, and this is hard when you're dealing with liquids that are still warm. You've got to take your time, be very patient, and get as much air out as you can. And then as soon as you get it sealed, as much air out as you can, and you know that thing is sealed, lay it flat. Let me move this out of the way so you can see what I'm doing. Lay it flat because you want it to freeze flat. Now there's still some air in there, so I'm going to try one more attempt at getting it out, but I really don't want to lose any of the liquid, so be very, very, very gentle. Okay, it's got a good seal on it, and this is ready for the freezer. So it's a flat bag of soup, it's labeled. This recipe probably took me 45 minutes to make, about 15 minutes to cool off. I just removed it from the heat and set it away from the range. It's not cold by any means. Like somebody could eat this right now and be happy with the temperature, but I just needed it to cool down enough to mess with, to get it in the bags. So I'm gonna go ahead and bag the next bag of the same recipe. And while I'm doing that, I'm gonna do the same exact method. I've already pre-labeled a bag so you can see my information on there. I think I said this lasts for about 3 months in your freezer, in case I didn't. While I'm bagging, I'm gonna talk to you a little bit about this recipe. So it calls for a lot of diced vegetables. And once again, I was able to reference my, grab my carrots that I had previously prepared and frozen. On Friday in this workshop, you guys are going to have the ability to watch how to properly prepare and get your produce ready to freeze so that it will last. And the methods that I use and that I share with you guys, that I'll teach you guys, will have your produce lasting a year, 1 full year in your freezer. So I was at Costco, I found a 10-pound bag of carrots, organic carrots in bulk. It was less than $5. Came home, put my audio book on because I love listening to books while I work. And I was listening to my book. I was moving and grooving, and I just sat there and I washed, I peeled, I cut, I did all of the stuff you need to do. I did it. I boiled them, I blanched them, put them in an ice bath, and now I have carrots for all of these recipes. So definitely look into that on Friday. I flash freeze regularly carrots. I flash freeze tomatoes. I flash freeze my squash. Pretty much anything I can buy in bulk at Costco, I have toyed around with and researched the best ways to freeze them to have them last. So you can see here, I've got all of my soup in. I'm gonna get all the air, keep working on the air. Okay, now I'm going to close it, turn it flat again like I did a minute ago, and I'm going to, you see there's an air pocket, so I'm going to lift it up a little bit, open just the middle, press that air out gently while I'm holding it up to preserve the liquid. The last thing you want is your delicious soup running all over your counter because it slipped out of the bag while you were sealing it or getting the air out. So there is my second bag. You can see I still have quite a bit of soup left here. Now it's not going to be frozen again in the large bags like that. You see I just stacked that right on top of that one. That's how I stack them in my freezer as well. So super space saving. So you can see here there's 2 bags, 2 meals, and I just stack them so they don't take up that much space in my freezer. Literally thaw it, reheat it, throw the bag away, you're done. This is what's left. I'm actually gonna bag it into individual portions now. So my husband, myself, my girls will have a hot, healthy lunch whenever they need it. And especially when the weather turns cold. I know I've said that, but it's so good. And also, just a little tip here on the side. Right now, I'm bagging my soups because you have to cook your soup. So you do have to take time to prep and cook your recipes in full before you can freeze your soups. But right now, I have eggs in my oven. I'm also, while these were cooling, I prepared 2 dozen of the egg cups for freezer breakfast, so that those are ready to go on busy mornings. So maximize your time. You don't have to do one recipe at a time or one thing at a time. You can use your time effectively by working on multiple recipes at the same time, to just get the process faster, get it going faster. You're going to discover what works for you, what doesn't work for you, and you'll perfect it over time. But I really hope you guys are taking some of these tips and you're going to apply them, because I promise it will revolutionize the way you do your dinner. So I'm going to go tend to those egg cups now, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.